So this is what drives our work. This is the vision of the agency. Our vision statement says healthy communities, healthy First Nation children and families. Our mission statement is to revive, enhance and support culturally based resources for families and communities. And essentially this is what is to guide our work every day. Right? This is what we strive for every day. And it gives us direction, right? It gives us purpose in terms of how we approach our work every day and how we move forward with our families and children. A lot of what we do is based on four different areas. And we provide a range of services for children and families that promote health and well-being and facilitate a restoration of family, of harmony and balance to the family union. So a lot of that is really about the first column, which is this one here, prevention services. So our main focus all the time, and I try and tell my staff since I've been back, is do everything you can to prevent children from coming into care. And what that means is providing more prevention services and doing things outside the box. And authority, close your ears, right? Doing things that may not be within the boundaries of the current legislation. And I'm happy to say that a lot of what we do is about making sure first that children are safe and that they can be returned to their family as quickly as possible. Right? And that's often very difficult to do. And I think for me, one of the other things that we provide is promotional services, right? We focus on enhancing capacity, competency of our community participants. So a lot of what we do is land-based work. A lot of what we do is really focusing on parents and providing parent support, like through parenting programs. We do things like parenting counseling, that kind of thing, right? So it's very much focused on ensuring that the people that we work with and work for have the capacity to look after their own kids, right? That's essentially what promotional services is about. And really...
Okay, prior to colonization, how were children cared for?
Our children were treated with great affection. As a matter of fact, it was recorded in the Hudson Bay Archives by Andrew Graham, where he spoke about how children were so loved, more so than their own children. That's what he noticed. Our children were well looked after. There was no such thing as child neglect back in the day, nor was there any poverty, and so that's my response to that question.
But it was done in a very customary care way in terms of how our communities provided safety to kids. But not only that, but to keep the kids within the family. And from what I understand from the elders that I worked with, and like I said, I mentioned yesterday with the elders, like the local child care committee members, you know, the responsibility of keeping children safe was a community responsibility, right? And I understand that's how it was done in the past. Thank you.
Some of the challenges that we have with the current child welfare system. And in my presentation this morning, I spoke about the problems we have with the current system, and one of them being the foster care system. It's not working for our kids, and I totally agree with you that it can be very painful, not just for the children that are in care, but for the grandparents and families that still want to have a connection with them, right? And which is why it's so important for all of us to be involved in the work that's to come, and that is to change the system and create our own.
We didn't teach our children the way our ancestors raised us, the way my parents were raised, the way I was raised. In the old days, when a child was born, they cut that cord there was a ceremony to give that child a traditional name, a spirit name. We didn't have these fancy names like my name, Joe Hislop, you know. We had traditional names. In order to go back to where we want to be and develop our own laws, we have to go back into our sweat lodges, into our traditional ceremonies. We can get help from the spirits to direct us which way we need to go. If we use their system, the system that they're using now, to develop our own laws, we'll be back in the same boat. Maybe we'll be in a worse position. So we have to go way back in order for us to move ahead. I believe in self-determination, self-government, making decisions for our own selves. I believe in that. I don't believe in delegated authority coming from other governments. I believe in doing things ourselves.
I think working together and a communication is very important. Those are the very important things. And because they have to work side by side. I myself have a grandson that's in care, and it's hard. It's very hard and very difficult, especially with emotionally. And but I work through it day by day. I explain to my grandson the reasons why he's living with me, and I don't hide anything from my grandson because he understands already. And I explain to him the reasons why, because of the mother and the father are in a difficult situation. And the WASA's agency is there, and there's times when I don't agree with them, but I have to work with them. But I tell them the reasons why I don't agree with them.
For the agencies to reestablish that elders committee, because that would be the work that they would do. We need to reestablish a good working relationship. We need to build trust, you know, because we're all trying to move towards self-government, and you know, we have to build that trust. And also working with your staff, the agencies need to work with the staff in terms of them understanding what the work is, you know, the work that's being undertaken, because they shouldn't just be focusing on apprehension and child safety, but they have to understand too that they might also be working their way out of a job. You know, and so we need to really focus on that trust-building relationship, and however way we do that. And I think it's important that we reinstate the elders committee, and they in turn will help in guiding the work that needs to take place, especially with that cultural rebuilding our communities.
The other day I spoke about feeling that preciousness, that sacredness as a child before I was taken away to an Indian residential school. I lost that for many, many years. How can we make sure our children experience that instead of what the elder spoke about over there, being taken out of the home and separated from family, separated from their language, separated from their culture? That's what happened to me. That's what happened to my siblings. We all know that. The challenge, I think, for everyone, including myself, is to look forward and put in the building blocks that are needed for it to be better, a better experience for all of our families. You know, I often think about those times in Churchill when the Dene people were moved into Churchill. I don't know how they did it, but my mother and my father invited the Dene into their home, and somehow they communicated. I know my mother and my father didn't speak Dene, I don't know how they did that, but they really enjoyed themselves, and I'm sure Jesse can attest to that. I mean, hallelujah. So that's the essence of what we're doing here. That's the opportunity that we have here. Bring your ideas. Share your ideas. Everything is of value. Each one of you is important to this process.
So it's really important, I think, as we live in communities now, we're all urbanized. I live in a house where I turn up my furnace, turn my lights on, I run my water. But when we left Churchill, we ran away as far as we could as a community. And we moved to Teduli. Things were good for a number of years until we realized that we brought the demons with us when we moved to Teduli. The alcoholism, the violence, the abuse, and all those things that go with a destroyed people, I guess. So in the early 90s, I got on council, and I suggested to the council, the chief at the time was Stephen Thrasey, that we go further in the bush. Let's take our people back further. Let's have a cultural gathering somewhere within our territory, within close proximity to the community. So we started having traditional gatherings. And that's got to be a key environment for the kids to reclaim and to re-understand that just to be in the forest is a healing for them, for us. If you have a forest somewhere close by where you can just sit and listen to the wilderness, you don't realize the peace that comes with that and the tranquility that comes from the forest is a healing thing that we all need, I think.
One of the most, perhaps, the greatest accomplishments of these people, meaning our people, is the obedience and the respect that they get from their children. And this is in the 1950s. From their children, like without chastising them. They say they get such obedience from their children. I think what he's talking about, and I'm going to say it in my language. The guy had to stamane in magic, a wasak, utinigiwa, egin the tawajik, mitinegin the tawajik. Ego aga mitine ustakutatajik, egin musta, wawaskit sahajik. Ego in my 1950s. Konigi at the Masnahami Tom, 1960s. I started to be Yabatam. Because of residential school, you see that breaking down in the late 1960s because of the effects of residential school and the disrespect that they were taught in the residential schools. But what I think is, if our people could accomplish it right up to the 1950s, we can do it again. We can go back to those values and those systems. And I really love hearing what you're saying here over the last 3 days. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Our first question is, how does the nation define relationships, kinships? There was a lot of good answers in our group. So the first one was connection to people I know, where I live, different bands and communities, still a connection to families. Families grew up together, all considered as brothers, sisters, and other family members called family. Visit a community, place relationship to the community, like who is your mom, who's your dad, and this is how people connected, kinship in different communities. And then they reminded us that where we come from and where we belong. And our word for our relationship in our language is wagotuin, relationships that's relative to everyone. Kinship, not just blood related. There's some adoption into family, customary adoptions. Marriage into other communities is also a connection to that family. Meeting new family and building those strong bonds in that family. Even through our ceremony, we have ceremonial families, and we also have working families. Like when I worked with NCN, CFS, they were my NCN family, and with KTC that I work with, that's my KTC family. So we have that family relationship in our workplace.
Okay, and then question number 2, how do nations define family? Due to residential school, summers were the time to get to know the siblings because you weren't close because of residential school. Love, care to people, making their way home so they stay in the mom's home. Provide granny to children in the community. In the community, show all related, let them know they have family everywhere. Family love to laugh. Family is very important. Family is who you relate to, supports, understand you. Doesn't have to be blood. Would be your mother, your peers. And then the last question on customary care adoption, our group said that it was no papers agreement between families back in the day. They take you in because they consider you family, and families protect you. Private arrangements that didn't involve CFS is what customary care and adoption was. Some people were raised by their aunt and uncle, grandparents, all by mutual agreement, and there was no. They took the children to raise on their own using their own funds and own money.
Okay, the third one, how does a nation define customary care or adoption? I felt that this is a question that was actually two questions really in a way, because customary care, can you hold that up? Okay, customary care is the traditional way. This again is a Deni word. Segui, nessa. Any meaning, take on the responsibility of another or raising another as your own. So that's the customary adoption and care. And in today's world, we need to apply for guardianship so that child is protected. It's starting to go into the white man world now when we say that. The godmother, godfather, godparent. But I'll go back again to my two friends there that were in a situation where their family members were scattered all over, and they started seeing one another much later. So they had to rely a lot on that kind of relation. Honor the family's wishes as to how or who will raise the child.
Yesterday, somebody said that the government recorded our strengths and weaknesses. They realized that children were one of our main strengths, and they used it against us. I think this problem of how many Indigenous children are in childcare has to be tackled from different angles. One of those aspects is dealing with addiction on a larger scale, starting with our young. Growing up, I had very little knowledge of feelings, emotions, and mental health. They say addiction stems from trauma, and we all have trauma. What we don't have when we're young is healthy coping mechanisms. We don't know how to deal with our emotions and feelings. A lot of us are scared to look soft when we're trying to express ourselves. We're taught to be strong, not to show emotion. We feel shame when we try to express ourselves. We have to teach our young better than that. That's why our communities are so overrun with drugs and alcohol. If we're ever going to have a fighting chance against what the government has done to us, it has to start with educating our young. I think maybe if we did, it would reduce the number of indigenous addicts over time. I don't think we could depend on every single parent to teach their children these things. I myself am just learning these things. All children go to school. Our children should be educated on feelings, emotions, and they should be taught healthy communication skills. They should feel safe expressing themselves to family, friends, and amongst themselves. I think it will bring people closer. It will bring us together. We're stronger together. I think a lot of us feel like we're alone when we are not. By the time I'm old, I want to see a community where everyone is comfortable with communicating with one another, a place where people feel safe to express themselves. I want to see our people healthy, and I believe it starts with educating our young on these subjects. If they can use schools to inflict intergenerational trauma on us, then we should be able to use our schools for intergenerational healing. Thank you for listening.